Hello, my name is Damon Williams. I'll be doing a presentation on Cambodia today. First, I'll be giving you a quick overview of the population, geographic location, ethnic groups, government affiliations, and economy. Um, Cambodia, officially known as the Kingdom of Cambodia, is located in Southeastern Asia and is part of the Indochina Peninsula. Cambodia sits on the Gulf of Thailand and is bordered by a number of other Southeastern Asian countries, including Vietnam to its east, Thailand to its northwest, and Laos to its northeast. The capital of Cambodia is Phnom Penh, which serves as its nation's economic, industrial, and cultural center. About 1.5 people about 1.5 million people live in the city of Phnom Penh, which amounts to about 10% of Cambodia's total population. Next thing I'll be talking about is the ethnic groups. About 90% of people there identify as Cambodian or Khmer. 5% identify as Vietnamese, Chinese 1%, and the other 4% is composed of various hill tribes that live there. Their government is ran under a constitutional monarchy where the prime minister is the head of government and the monarch there is the head of state. The kingdom formally operates according to the nation's constitution, which was enacted in 1993 in the frameworks of a parliamentary representative democracy. Uh, Cambodia has affiliations with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations trading systems as well as the World Trade Organization. Cambodia's economy operates under an open market system, although they operated under a planned economy until 1995. Cambodia has been experiencing a rapid growth in its economy, averaging a growth of 7.9% in the years of 1994 through 2015, and is expected to continue at a pace of 6.9% in 2018. GDP per capita has increased from just $200 in 1992 to its current GDP per capita of $1,269 as of June 2018, resulting in the country being upgraded to a low middle income country. Next thing I'll be talking about is the culture. Culture is heavily influenced by India. I'll be talking about the religious beliefs, language, and clothing. So the religions of Cambodia, mostly 90% is Buddhist, 1.6% evangelical Christians, 2.3% Muslims, and you have about 4.8% others. Food, many of the foods that are consumed are, typical Indian dishes. These cuisines use dried spices that were borrowed from Indian culture and given a Cambodian twist. Almost every Cambodian dish is served with rice, like many Asian cultures. Next thing I'll be talking about is the clothing. The clothing in Cambodia is very important as they have a caste system where you can identify someone's social class by the type of clothes that they're wearing. These cases are divided by the jobs they work, family associations, as well as other socioeconomic factors. Business climate facts. They are part of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, like I stated earlier, average growth of 7.9% in 1994 through 2015, average per capita income of $1,289, and they are a lower middle income country. All right, so with this growth, with this chart here is just showing the growth that they've experienced over the years. Um, about 2002 to 2008, they averaged about 9%. This is right before the financial crisis in 2009, which affected everyone globally. But right after that, they came back and they had 6% in 2010 and upped it to about 7.4%. Um, this is just a chart showing their move from the low group income to a lower middle. Business climate's advantages. So there are definitely some advantages here. They have a booming travel and tourism sector, lax foreign investment policies, lower wage workers, plentiful labor force, which are all things that would drive people to come there. First, I was going to talk about the travel and tourism. Here we have employment, when we talk about direct employment, indirect employment, and induced employment. Direct employment, you can think of things as like hotels and travel, things that are direct to the tourism. Then you have indirect things such as investment from the government as well as foreign outsiders that are investing inside the economy. Then you have induced spending that is mostly by the employees that have to get back and forth to work and eat and things like that. So here we're just looking at the amount of jobs that are accounted for total contribution, to travel and tourism employment. So here we have about 1 million jobs in both 2017 and 2018 that are direct. You have about another 1.2 that is through indirect, and you have about 500,000 that are from induced. But when you look at it all together, it amounts to about 30% of their total economy's employment, which is a big deal. In 2028, they assume to be about 35%. This is just another graph that's just reiterating the same points: the steady climb in employment and jobs that are offered. Right now, it's about 1.2 million. It looks about. That's just direct though. And here we're going over to GDP. We're just changing over to the percent of GDP that the economy makes through this. Total altogether, it's about 32%. Also a big part of their GDP comes from agriculture, but agriculture as well as textiles. But tourism is making a big splash. Next thing we'll talk about their investments policies, just their strengths and weaknesses. Some of their strengths definitely are their lax policies that they have, as well as the incentives that they have. Incentives available for investors include 100% wholly foreign ownership of companies, corporate tax holidays of up to 8 years, a 20% corporate tax rate after the incentive period ends, duty-free imports of capital goods, and no restrictions on capital repatriation. Next thing we're going to talk about is the wage of workers. The wage of workers here for companies that are coming there is really good, but maybe not so for the workers that are there. They have a very low minimum wage. The minimum wage is about $153 a month. They've been looking to up that. I'm sorry, it's actually 138, and they've been looking to up it to 153, which they did in 2017. Although it's 153, or that they upped it, which I'll get to later on. This is one of the reasons that corruption is so rampant there, because a lot of public officials are still making about $170 a month to live on, and this is still not at the living wage that is needed to live there. The next thing I'll be talking about is the labor force. They have a high number of underemployed workers. 33% of the population is prime working age, 15 through 33. So this leaves a lot of people that are there to work the jobs. The business climate is disadvantages. Corruption, is pervasive, going to be pervasive throughout this presentation, as well as their poor infrastructure and unskilled laborers. First thing we're going to talk about is their poor infrastructure. Much of Cambodia is very spread out, and many parts of it are outright inaccessible due to the lack of infrastructure. Although this is a current problem, Cambodia seeks to invest $16 billion in building its infrastructure over the next 4 years. Cambodia currently ranks 108 out of 140 with their current infrastructure, according to the World Economic Forum in 2016, but looks to change that in the upcoming years. By building an infrastructure, Cambodia would take steps to taking advantage of regional integration as well as stay internationally competitive. By building that infrastructure, there are about 2,000 miles of road in Cambodia, yet only about 12% of it is paved. When looking at the current logistics of transportation, Cambodia ranks last in its efficiency out of its Asian counterparts, costing transporters about double to move their product throughout the country. Next thing we're talking about is corruption. Bribery in Cambodia is extensive and has often been a way to get things done in Cambodia. Previously mentioned, Cambodia ranks 161st out of 180th in the Transparency International's Global Corruption Perceptions Index. Anti-corruption laws have been put in place since 2010. Despite this, business people, both local and foreign, uh, have identified corruption, particularly within judiciary, customs services, and tax authorities, as the single greatest deterrent to investment in Cambodia. Most of the corruption amongst the public officials has to do with the wages they are paid. In 2016, the minimum wage for a public official was about $138, but was raised to $175 a month later that year. Although this is better, it still falls below the living wage to live a quality life and leaves these public officials a prime target for corruption. Um, the IHRM specific challenges that I'll be talking about is health issues, corruption again, HR disconnect, and as well as the lack of skilled labor. Healthcare is definitely just a big concern due to a lot of people that will be working there. Expatriates aren't used to these conditions. There's a lot of bacteria and things that they just haven't been exposed to. The healthcare system there is just not the same that it here is here in the United States. So when sending workers there, people have to be, IHRM managers have to be more, conscientious and also just thinking ahead of the ball and realizing that these people need to have their immunizations as well as having the resources available to them to make sure that these people are healthy. Corruption, pervasive thing here. I think that these companies that go here just need to be ahead of the ball with establishing anti-corruption policies that would be intact, that will let workers know that they will not tolerate that, even though they may be working in an area where it's normal. HR disconnect. Um, the issue that I see with the HR disconnect is very similar. That happens to a lot of companies who operate internationally. Policies and procedures should be set up that are followed throughout the company when it comes to hiring practices and benefits. Due to Cambodia being Asia, you can expect the culture of local workers to be much different than wherever the home country of the company is, unless, of course, they're established in the same region. When doing business in other countries, IHR will eventually have the concern of whether they should try to use their home country's policies or shape new policies around the culture of where they're located, in this case, Cambodia. Um, I think it's important to first establish the company's culture of the homeland and ensure branches share the same vision, regardless of where they are located. Most successful multinational enterprises have found ways to develop a common set of goals and culture to ensure all branches share the same vision and objectives, and this is no different in Cambodia. Last thing I'll just be talking about is the lack of skilled workers. It's just the education level there is very low. A lot of people do finish their primary school, which is here, which would be K through 6. But when you're talking about secondary school there, 6 through 12, you can see the enrollment is just down. It's probably less than 10%. So when you're looking at skilled workers or people that are actually there, there's a very low pool of people to pull from. So in conclusion, um, Cambodia has come a long way in the last couple of decades and looks very promising to future investors due to the potential this country shows. Cambodia has the potential to be a major hub for international corporations and greatly decrease their levels of corruption. All indicators point to Cambodia being better off in the next decade due to the expansion of their economy and conscious effort to incentivize international business and deal with corruption. The two main issues Cambodia has in its way are its infrastructure as well as the deep-rooted culture of corruption that has plagued them since its early beginnings. However, with training, financial incentives, and improvement in infrastructure, Cambodia can overcome these issues and it could become a major player in the association of Southeast Asian nations and later the global economy.